I'm Alan.
I'm Rahana.
I'm here.
And today we have our guest, Laura Breeze, with us. Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Lovely to be
We're
here.
we're very excited to chat. I know having you on the podcast is very exciting, so I want to get started. Before jumping into talking about all the really cool things that you do, can you just tell us something fun and interesting about yourself outside of the film world?
Yes. I know you prepped me for this icebreaker and I still am like, what's interesting about me?
It's a tough question. I wouldn't an want to answer it, but I ask everyone else the question.
So yes, I grew up here in Minnesota, but I have spent most of my career and adult life living in New York and California. And yeah, what else? I am a Korean adoptee, so part of the large population of Korean adoptees here
Same
in
here.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yay! So yeah, and then we moved back in 2021. So my husband and we were part of the mass exodus of California during the pandemic and decided
Wow.
to, yeah, make our base here in Minnesota again, which has been great to be near some of my high school friends and my
Oh yeah.
family. And yeah, we love being back.
I
Nice.
love that. I'm assuming SoCal, somewhere by LA is where you live.
I lived both. So I lived in Los Angeles for some years, and then I lived in the Bay Area for, yeah, we were living in the Bay Area before we moved back here. So yeah.
A lot.
Ooh.
I'm originally from the uh, Pleasant Hill, Walnut Creek area.
Oh,
So
nice. Yeah, we were
yeah,
East
very cool.
Bay. We were in Alameda. So yeah.
That's where I was born. Now everyone
Oh.
knows. Facts no one cares about. Um,
Alameda
there's
is a cool place. So we
it
loved it
is.
there. Yeah.
That's so cool. And we were talking about New York earlier. Love that you lived there.
Yeah.
I love New York so much. I haven't been there in a very long time. Um,
Check
but
our first Patreon
do
episode for
you
that.
yeah. Do you get to go back and like travel there often? I assume that you probably still have like a lot of friends there,
I
everything that you want
do.
to see.
Yeah, I am. I'm usually bouncing around from location to location, especially for work. So whenever people ask where I'm from, I kind of just say I'm bi-coastal.
I like
Um,
Yep.
it.
Yep.
just
Where are
because
you based, right?
yeah, kind
Yeah.
of.
Mhm.
So even though I spend the majority of my time here in Minnesota, but
Yeah.
yeah, I will make it. I work in Los Angeles a lot, in San Francisco, and then yeah, New York sometimes. There's another project that I'm being considered for that's going to be going in Florida,
Oh,
and
cool.
working on a project that's going in Chicago in September. So yeah, we kind of just as long as I'm willing to travel, it seems like it's
Hmm.
okay to be based wherever you want to be based and
Mm.
just go where the work is.
I love that.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, in that case, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, so I work as a freelance producer and AD. Um, Mostly that entails, well, guess I should back up. My day job is as a line producer slash UPM and
Mhm.
AD. But my passion is to do more creative producing, which,
Yeah.
I've been in development on a film for about 3 years now. That's a feature that
Oh.
we have participated in a bunch of labs, and then we also pitched at the Tribeca Film Festival a couple of years ago as
Mm.
part of their program Untold Stories, where you
Mhm.
pitch live at the festival for the chance to win a grant of $1 million from AT&T. So
Wow.
yeah, that was very fun. But yes, mostly I work as a line producer slash UPM and as an AD. But yes, on the side, I am always hustling and trying to do more creative producing.
I love
Wow.
that.
Yeah. but you're already like on the business side too, right? So like,
Yes, I work a lot with people who might have a script, and they are trying to figure out how to get it made, whether it's
mhm.
shorts or
Mhm.
features, mostly on the narrative side. Although I have
Yeah.
dabbled in documentary a little bit. I worked on a docu-series for Apple TV that actually shot in Korea, which was my first time to
Cool.
Korea. Was for
Wow, that's
work.
awesome.
So
Yeah,
cool.
that was a lot of fun.
What was
And
that?
then it's a series called K-pop Idols. So feel free to check it
Wow,
out on Apple TV.
last
Uh,
year. Huh. Okay.
yeah, we shot it a few years ago, but it
Okay.
it just
Mhm.
was released
Released,
last
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And then I also worked on a docu-series for the Olympic Channel that followed breakdancers around. So yeah, that was
Wow, you got the break
fun.
dancers from last
We
year?
did. We did
Oh,
not follow what's her face from Australia. Raygun?
ray
Yeah.
gun. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Never forget the ray
Yeah.
gun.
So, we followed, people who are these amazing athletes that it's
Yeah.
kind of sad that it got overshadowed by,
Mhm. By
Raygun,
that.
which I know she said she trained and everything, but some of these, breakdancers that we were following are pretty phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
Japan has insane breakdancers that just they defy gravity. It's crazy.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was pretty fun to work on that series as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's incredible. What made you decide to go into like the producing and business side? Like where does your passion like come from with that work?
So I actually started out in front of the camera. Way
Okay.
back in the day, I was an actor. I guess,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you ever really leave acting behind. So
Mm-mm.
I guess I am
Yeah.
still an actor. I
Yeah.
just don't pursue it as often as my behind the
Yeah.
camera work.
Okay.
Uh, but when I was younger, I was an actor here in the Twin Cities at various theater companies with like Children's Theater and
Mhm.
the Ordway and the Guthrie. And back in the day, there was an
Wow.
amazing theater company called Theater de la Jeune Lune that I
Oh
was
yeah.
in some shows with. Yeah,
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
they're great. They did some really awesome stuff. I'm kind of sad they're gone.
Huh.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that kind of led me to doing some more film and TV as a kid. I was in this film called Sugar and Spice
Yes.
that
That
shot in the
I
Twin
know about
Cities.
that one.
Yes.
What?
It's kind of a cult film. It's about cheerleaders that rob a bank. Very, very
What?
silly film.
So, funny story about that. I went to the high school they shot part of the film in.
Oh, Anoka, yeah?
No,
Oh,
the other
oh,
one.
oh, okay, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Eastview.
Okay.
So, but I never saw the film because I was like, well, I'm not in it. I don't care. It's like,
Yeah.
I forgot
It's
about that movie.
yeah, I for
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
I
it's
should watch it
pretty.
just to see like, oh, look.
Yeah, it's James Marsden's in it. I think it's one of his
Yeah.
earlier roles. Marley
Hmm.
Shelton's in it, also one of
Mhm.
her earlier roles. So, um, yeah, that was pretty fun, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. What a cool
yeah,
experience to have, especially
Yeah,
yeah.
like when you're younger. 100%.
right, right.
Totally. So yeah, I mean, I eventually, growing up, it's not like I saw a lot of people that looked like me in film and television. And
Mhm.
as I started to learn more about the industry, and I didn't go to film school. I actually went to school to be an actor, so I'm a drama major and a broadcast journalism double major.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
That.
as I learned more about the industry, it became clear that like the people who are actually the decision makers, the ones who get
Hmm.
to decide which stories are told, are the producers, is what I discovered.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be the one who read all the scripts and was like, this is the one that we should be making, and we should
Hmm.
make more stories that are reflective of our communities that aren't so stereotypical. Because, you
Hmm.
know, growing up, not to date myself too much, but growing up, most of the film and TV roles for Asians all had some sort of stereotype in it. Like
Hmm.
Yeah.
they all did martial arts, they had an accent, they owned a dry cleaners, the women were prostitutes. Like, these were all
Yeah.
the tropes that you saw for Asians. And there were never any mixed families, being an adoptee. I never saw any stories that had,
Right.
Asians with white parents. That just wasn't
Right.
a thing. So, yeah, as I learned more about the industry, I just was like, well, the things that are getting made, I feel do not reflect our society.
Yeah.
And I think we should, I'd love to be more a part of the beginning stages of getting things made, or like finding stories and being like, yes, this one is the one that should be made. This is the one that everyone should see. I thought there was a lot of power in that. And so, yeah, I kind of switched over into being more behind the camera than in front of
Right.
I love
it.
So
Sorry.
what?
I feel like we were about to talk over each other and yeah, that's all.
Oh,
So,
okay. I guess, yeah. So is that where it started when you were in front of the camera, and then uh, obviously moved into producing? But like when it comes to starting like a film, now that you're in the role that you're in, how do you go about developing a film? Like you mentioned one that you are in development on still to this day, I assume.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And how's that going? So,
It's going well. We have, had to weather the writers' strike,
mm,
and the wildfires, and now the
the
federal
actor strike.
government.
Yeah.
Um, you
yep.
know, the industry is just constantly changing. It's always in flux, and
AI.
yep, yep. So, yeah, I think there's a common misperception that, oh, I have a script and I'm just going to make it. And
Hmm.
then it's like a very short process. But to
Yes.
make, yeah, like,
Yeah.
which would be great for anyone out there who that's
Yeah.
their experience. Awesome. More power to you. But
Indies, yeah.
yeah, but for most fe films, like most features, it takes anywhere from 3 to 10 years to get a film off the ground and to get it made.
Hmm.
So, I run into a lot of like early filmmakers or newer to the industry
Yeah.
who aren't aware of how long it can take. And so,
Mhm.
like a lot of times don't even have the development process even factored into getting the film made.
Yeah.
And it's so important. Development is so important. Um, so, I mean, everything starts with a good story, I guess, to go back to your
Yeah.
question, Alan. So, yeah, that's where everything starts. Depending on which side you're on for the development process, for me, what it looks like is I read a lot of scripts. I'll find a script that I like, and then I'll try to option it. And I'll say, hey, I really want to help you get this film made. And so then we do an optioning agreement, which for people who don't know what an optioning agreement is, I would pay that writer for the rights to produce their film. And this is something that I think in the indie space, people start getting real nervous about because they think they're losing their IP. And
Mhm.
that's not the case. Like yes, technically, when I option something, I own the IP, but you can write it into your optioning agreement that you're still part of the process or that you're coming
Yeah.
along for the ride. It's just as a producer, there are certain protections that I need to have in place, like an optioning agreement because if I were to find a producing partner, if I find the money to make this film, then I need some sort of guarantee that I'll still be part of the process.
Yeah.
So, and I've had it before where, we haven't gone down that route and then, you get cut out of the project, which is really sad because
Hmm.
you put a lot of time and energy and work
Yeah.
and even money. There's a fair amount of money that goes into the development process that I think also people don't realize that when you're making your budgets, you should also be factoring in money for development. Taking meetings with people can start to get expensive. Sending
Yeah.
things out to labs, hiring people to do budget creations.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're hiring a casting director in the initial phase to maybe start help like packaging the film and
Hmm.
getting the right cast attached, which can always be kind of like a chicken or the egg thing where sometimes you're attaching cast in order to procure the financing,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Hmm.
sometimes you have the money and you can already just attach the cast, but a lot of times it works kind of simultaneously, the whole process.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually the process is finding your team, like, a producer, director, writer is like the basis form of the team when you start the development process, and then really getting the script in place and ready to go.
Hmm.
Are the characters all fleshed out? Uh, is it too long, or is there anything that needs to be tightened up? Is there anything that feels maybe like out of date? Because a lot of times, like I said, it can take a really long time to get a film
Yeah.
made. So maybe some current sort of references need to be put in, or some adjustments need to be made. But really
Hmm.
honing in on the story so that all of those nuances, the creative is all really, really tight. And then you can start to think about, how much is it gonna take to make this film? How much money do we need to raise? How much financing do we need to find? How are we going to finance the film? Putting together a finance plan. How are we going to package it? Which cast are we going to attach? What production companies does this film fit within their slate? Or, which if you're someone who has connections to like networks and studios, which, streamers are doing stuff that is within line of the creative of the script. And then, yeah, you can sometimes work with a casting director to try to get cast attached, if, so that you can help get your financing.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
Sometimes you're attaching heads of departments. Like, again, if it's your writer's not your director, you would find a director that maybe is pretty well known. Um,
Or at
Yeah.
least
and then,
experienced and
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And, a director of photography, a DP, or a production designer that has experience, especially when you're like dabbling in the genre space. People that have that experience who work on like, horror films or sci-fi
Hmm.
or have that, background where they have garnered a certain amount of respect in
Yeah.
those genres, and their names mean something to
Hmm.
meaningfully attach to your project. So it's all
Hmm.
about just like packaging your project in a way that makes it easy for investors to say yes, to
Hmm.
be like, hey, we're ready to go, and that can take a long time. Like I said, the film I've been working on, we've been in development for 3 years on it. So, and that's
Nice.
not, because the script needed work. It was actually pretty much ready to go,
Hmm.
Hmm.
but there's been a lot of shifts in the industry. So the
Yeah.
writer's strike
Oh, I
happened.
can't imagine
So,
what the last 3 years have been like for
yeah.
you. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with the writer's strike, no one was buying anything, no one was
Right.
making anything, and you couldn't even pitch projects because it was considered crossing the line. And we
With the
wanted
actor
to,
strike too. Yep.
yeah, so we
Yeah.
wanted to stand with our, union brothers and sisters, and so we weren't
Yep.
really pitching that much, but we were trying to keep everything ready to go once
Yeah.
the strike ended so that we could continue to take meetings.
Right.
And then, yeah, it's a lot of meeting with production companies, targeting those companies that we feel like this would be a good fit for, and that those mandates they change as well with the shifts in the industry, So there
Yeah.
was at one point in time where like female driven scripts was like what everyone wanted. Everyone got tired of seeing the like white male narrative. They wanted
Hmm.
Yeah.
a BIPOC female driven story, which is what our script is. So we were situated pretty nice for that.
Yeah.
Then people were like not really interested in doing dramas. Comedies were really, really popular. Then it was more like, oh, we don't want anything that's, you know, too genre or
Hmm.
sort of like crime stuff became really popular for
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
while. It's still popular. People are always
Yeah.
into like true
Yeah.
crime stuff. But yeah, so it's just kind of like finding a way to continue moving things forward as the industry has these like fluctuations and changes and stuff.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, before Rahana asks her question, like, do you find a benchmark at some point where it's like you ever watch like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? So they have like those levels where you're guaranteed to get this amount for
Right.
whatever, and then like same with the budget. Like, do you have like steps where this would be acceptable to make the film with, and then this would be more ideal, and then this would be perfect sort of thing? Like, do you have anything like that normally, or how does that go for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so before I start any project, I like to chat with, I work with a lot of writer directors. So I like to chat with my writer director about um, sort of their visions and goals for the project. Some writer directors are like, I just want to get it made and I don't care
Yes.
about like, getting into festivals. I just want to like make something. And
Hmm.
so then like that kind of helps to create your finance plan because then I'm like, okay, well, what does that look like for you? Do you want to, again, do you want to spend 10 years trying to get this made or like
Yeah.
usually those the that in that situation it's like I just want to make something. The budgets are very small.
Hmm.
Yeah.
um Sometimes it's like, well, I really want this to be my calling card. I want this to
Right.
be like my introduction on the scene so people see this, a short, for instance, like a proof of concept. And then
Huh.
they're going to be like, oh, we want to finance your feature and we want to
Hmm.
like bring you in as the director, obviously. And so then that can look a little bit, those budgets can look a little bit bigger. Then there are other people who are like, I want to be able to have this be my calling card and introduction into the space, and I want to be able to do it again. Like I don't want to lose money. I need to like make
Yeah.
some form of money off of this.
No
And so
guarantees
then,
there. Sorry.
yeah,
Right.
right.
I'm just gonna say
So
that.
then
Just for
those
me. For me.
those those budgets tend to get, also a little bit bigger because then you're
Yeah.
talking about like how do we make this sustainable and what
Yeah.
kinds of like distribution models are we exploring. But that's,
Right.
having that initial conversation is really how we flesh out that finance plan. And to your point, Alan, our project has gone through many iterations of budgets.
Okay.
So, and I think that's for majority of films, they all have like 10 different versions of the budget. You have the
Hmm.
like low,
Hmm.
low, low budget of like, we're just going to get this made because I want to make something. And then you have the higher end of like, well, if Netflix gets involved, then we're going to have, like the $1 million
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's good to understand which levels are more comfortable and just knowing like it takes a long time to raise money and
Hmm.
And pitch
then,
it. I
yeah.
mean, how I had just have more questions upon questions here. So in the pitch process too, does how are those meetings being set up these days? Is it like over Zoom or is it over? Do you actually go to their offices now? Is that, I guess, how is business being run these days?
Yeah, I think it can be a combination of both.
Hmm.
Truthfully, a lot of this stuff, it sounds like very formal, oh, taking a meeting. A
Yeah.
lot of times it's just over a drink in a bar. So,
Yeah.
um, your initial contact with someone who might potentially finance your film might just be, you're at a party. So the reason I bring it up is because, yeah, I just got back from the Tribeca Film Festival in New York, and partially
Yep.
why I was there was to take meetings, to
Yep.
meet people, to talk
Yeah.
about this
That's
film
how
we've
it is
been
in
in.
Cannes. Yep.
Yes, exactly. Film festivals are a great way to meet people.
Ones with markets too. So
So
yeah.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
that as well is very important. And so you just kind of like, I mean, I guess I would say that I wouldn't recommend for people to just like who are just starting out to like go to film festivals expecting to meet like financiers and they're going to invest in your film and stuff like. I just want to make things,
Yeah.
grounded in realism, but um, film festivals are always a great way to meet other collaborators or,
hmm
people who are also getting their projects made. And then a lot of times at these parties or at these bars where you're hanging out, you meet people and it's a little bit of an art form. You have to be able to soft pitch or pitch people without them knowing you're pitching them.
Yeah.
So I had someone ask me at Tribeca, what do you think is the hardest thing about being a producer? And I think that's one of the things is like you're always pitching and you're always
Yes.
on, but you have to make
Yes.
it seem like you're not pitching
Yeah.
because it's all about it kind of like getting people to be interested in your project without
Hmm.
knowing, like without giving them a hard pitch. So
Yeah.
it's things like, oh, so how have you been enjoying, someone might ask me like, oh, have you been enjoying the festival? What have you seen? And then I can be like, say something like, oh, well, I actually just went to the Collectivo screening, which is what my writer director had a film in Tribeca for, which is Lin-Manuel's inaugural filmmaking program for Latino filmmakers. And so I can
Nice.
tell that person, oh, I just went to the Collectivo screening, and then I can sort of soft pitch them on my writer director. And all of a
Yes.
sudden they're like, oh, that's so cool. That's great. Tell me more
Yeah.
about this director. And I can tell them, oh, yeah, she's great. We're working on this other feature film together and she's going places or, however
Yes.
I want to phrase
Yeah.
it to get people interested. But yeah, it is always trying to be very genuine. And I like to try to be very genuine about these
Hmm.
interactions because people can always tell when you're just using them or when you just view them as
hmm
like, oh, they're just the money. Like these are
Yeah.
people. Have a conversation with them, get to know
Right.
them.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it is a little bit of an art form to network and do this sort of like pitching but not pitching. Um, so yeah. But
Yeah.
festivals are a great way to do it.
I always think of like The Office when was it who was it that was like there was Michael Scott and then there was someone else who was doing the hard sell.
Oh.
What was his name? Was that Dumal? No, that was
Timothy Oliphant.
Oliphant, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. I always think of that scene
He
when he's just like,
like he's making her sell to him.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
But
Oh my
anyways,
God.
yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Rahana.
Um, so it sounds like you've really worked on projects that range from like little budgets, like what what is the bare minimum that we could do because I just want to make this done. This is my baby, all the way
Right.
to this huge, huge budget and production.
And Apple TV
When
Plus.
it and Apple TV Plus, when it comes to probably those smaller ones or even like smaller budgets or even maybe just if it is someone who's newer but really motivated and like I want to try and get a big budget. What are some of the like recurring mistakes or challenges that
Mm.
you see people run into um that they probably just don't know any better or don't really that you could recommend like hey don't do this or do this so that doesn't happen.
Um, that's a good question. And you sent this to me ahead of time, and I'm like, again, I was like, I don't really know how. I think some of the mistakes that I see are maybe not listening. So I think a good way to approach like people who are new, a good way to approach getting something made or to get into the industry, surround yourself with people that know better than you and don't be threatened by it, like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
great. I always try to bring on people, and this is something I learned from my mentor who taught me how to AD to be an assistant director. He's like, I want people who don't think like me. I want people who are going to be able to fill in the holes or the gaps and who can call me out and be like, hey, did you think of X, Y, and Z?
Hmm.
Um, and that's something that I always try to incorporate as well. So, like, early on, it's great if you can find people who have worked on more things or have done different things than you have,
Mhm.
then they can help you to learn this industry.
Mhm.
I think that sometimes people feel very threatened by people who might have worked on things that are bigger, for instance. Like there's no big and small. Like all projects
Yeah.
are, it's a miracle any film gets made, right?
Yes.
So I think that can be I think that can be a downfall is maybe not understanding that like listen to the people that have been there and take their
Mhm.
advice. If they're telling you this budget is not possible, like, for this reason, then listen to them. And then hopefully they're the type of people that will work with you to figure out, well, how do we reconcile that?
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
the way I like to produce is I like to say all things are possible. It just comes down to choices. So
Mhm.
I'm not one of those producers who likes to say, no, that's not in the budget. It's like, okay, is this really important to you? And then figuring out, okay, well, if you want to keep this, then it means if we want to do it for X amount of money, let's just say like, $5,000 for like your first project. You've
Yeah.
raised $5,000, but you have a 25-page script. That's just not going to work. Like, unless it's
Yeah.
two people sitting in one location talking to each other back and forth, that's going to
Yeah.
be real challenging. So it's just choices. So then it's like, okay, great. We can do this for $5,000 and we can make this, but we need to cut some pages. So like let's make those choices. What can be cut? So I think
Mhm.
listening to people who may know better than you do or who have the experience is really important. And a lot of
Mhm.
times I think people get very headstrong because they're like, I need to be very assertive about my creative vision, right?
Yeah.
And yes, it's important to have a vision and it's important to not, bend on the things that are important to you, sure. But listen to people.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I think that's kind of an important thing. Also, just having, realistic expectations. I think that sometimes can be a downfall too, is a lot of people, you know, if if they have this like huge action film or whatever, but like not having not know like action takes money. So like,
Yeah.
not knowing that might be or like, oh, this great like sci-fi thing. And there are certainly like exceptions to every rule, and I'm always happy to be proved wrong. But having sort of those grounded, realistic expectations is kind of important whenever you like go into making a project. And then yeah, surrounding yourself with the best team or like a good team for you.
Mhm.
So, and really vetting them. Don't
Yeah.
if you're meeting a producer who promises you like, oh, I can get you into Netflix. I know all these, who doesn't, maybe just take a moment and like make sure, vet them. Can they really
Yeah.
deliver on these promises? Like, people talk a big game out there, and
Hmm.
I think my mentor yells at me because I do this, but I often will be very realistic about what I can deliver on. If someone
Mhm.
approaches me for a project, I will be the first person to say I am not the right producer for you.
Mhm.
And I just had a conversation the other day with someone who was like, "Hey, I'm making this period piece. The budget was much larger than budgets than I've worked with in the past as a creative producer, and I realistically know I can't raise that much money. Like
Mhm.
that would be very challenging for me. So I flat out, told this filmmaker, I don't think I'm the right producer for you. Once you have your budget, I'm happy to like, help you out in whatever way I can. But if
Yeah.
you're looking to me to be the producer who's going to find you this money, who's going to figure
Right.
out how to bring it to market, who's going to figure out how to distribute it, I've never worked in like period stuff. Like the period world is very anything period is always
Hmm.
very pricey. So, I
Yeah,
mean, it's good that that budget is so big, but I don't know if I can raise that money. So, I
right.
think also like vetting your people and making sure like, can they really deliver on what they say they can?
Hmm.
Because sometimes
Yeah.
people, they talk big.
Mm,
Right.
absolutely. And I can't imagine like the disappointment if you go through that whole process with someone who, yeah,
Totally.
talks big like that, and you have that expectation, and then all of a sudden at the end, you're just kind of left laying there, like,
Right.
Well, you can put it on
yeah,
YouTube. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Or the sad part is then that it never gets made,
yeah,
and
right,
yeah,
or someone takes over your project and like it's a collaboration. So like yeah, really
yeah,
knowing and vetting the people that you want to work with is important. Just
hmm,
because yeah, they might have done big things doesn't necessarily mean they're the right person for your project.
right.
right,
And
absolutely.
to play to the times,
Go, go,
because
go,
with
go, go, go,
challenges
go.
that come, also opportunities arise, but also challenges. Like in the advent of AI now, it's like you mentioned action films or sci-fi. Like
Right.
now that you have an option that, which is also in a fuzzy area too, I get, but
Mm-hmm.
and they're kind of like suing themselves, the studios. It's kind of like, what's going on here? Who owns what, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, uh, is that doable now? I mean, is that gonna help, up and coming filmmakers in a way that you could get away with a lower budget for something that would require maybe a few things like that. So just you don't have to answer that if you're not, I don't think any of us are really equipped to answer that, but it's just, it's a thought that comes to mind that's like, is that now being weighed in now, or how does that work in what you're seeing at least?
Yeah, AI, well, first off, I guess I should just say that I am a Luddite. Technology is very hard for me. So, like, I have to Google how to use Instagram. This is how, like,
That's why it's
technology
there.
illiterate I am.
That's why it's there. I mean, yeah, you can figure it out.
Gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just started to use Chat GPT.
sure.
Because when I was
Go,
on a
go, go,
job
go, go, go,
actually, and
go.
one of my crew members was like, "Saves you so much time. Like you can do X, Y, and Z with this." And they were showing me, and yeah, mind blown. Um, but yeah, AI is an interesting space. I went to the Produce by conference, which is put on by the Producers Guild of America, PGA, every
Nice.
year. I went to it a couple of years ago, and AI was a big topic of conversation. Um, because it is so new, people don't know what to do with it. Uh, Studios and network execs are afraid to even touch
Go, go,
anything
go, go,
having to
go,
do
go,
with
go, go,
AI
go,
for
go, go,
fear
go,
of
go, go.
how, like, the backlash that will happen with that. So,
Hmm.
Right.
but, you know, what you're talking about, Alan, is, for these indie sort of spaces and to save budget, I think one of the things that I heard at the conference was like they were for anything AI as long as it didn't take jobs away from people. And, again, I'm still learning, so, but I tend to err towards that. So, one of the use cases that they talked about was for a sci-fi type of thing. They had this creature that they wanted to create as part of this film.
Hmm.
Well, they worked with a graphic designer and AI and the director. All
Okay.
three, or all both people with AI were working together, and it made the concepting so much faster because
Right.
previously you were having to like fabricate stuff, right? To see how, and
Yeah.
then the director would be like, oh, no, that doesn't feel quite right. But with AI, it became instantaneous where they would just have these
Mm.
sessions and
Hmm.
like really hone and tweak until they got this, creature to look the
Previs
way,
sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, the way the director wanted
Okay.
it to look. And in that case, it was working with AI,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it didn't take any jobs away from it because they were working with, a graphic designer as well,
Hmm.
a graphic artist. So I think at risk of backlash from the community, I would say that that case, case study seems okay to me.
Hmm.
And yeah, I tend to agree that like anytime we're taking jobs away and using AI instead of
Yeah.
an actual person, that doesn't feel right to me. Like I would never use AI to write a script because
Hmm.
I feel like there are far better writers than AI out there. Like AI cannot replace a good writer. I don't know. I will never be convinced otherwise.
But
So,
yeah,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
the Writers Guild came out saying like it's okay if they assist in coming up with idea,
Right, right.
like that sort of feedback loop, if you will, sort of thing.
hmm
So
Yeah, I mean, when you get into writers' rooms, it's a lot about just continually like pitching ideas, especially with like comedies, right? Like bumping up jokes
Yeah.
and
yeah,
everything. So, yes, the writers are having to put in a prompt, right? But these are just like instances. They're not being like write an entire script that's about X,
right.
Y, and Z. Like that,
Right.
that's not something. But they might take an existing joke, in a comedy example and be like, okay, make this so that it's funny to people who, I don't know, work in tech,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
like kind of like giving it prompts to hone in on some of the jokes to make it a little bit funnier. So yeah, I don't, not being a writer, I don't know how often this is the case or how often they do this, but
Right.
yeah, I have heard the same. Yeah,
Okay.
that one.
Cool. And contrastly, I guess, contrast. I don't know. Can you speak to experience of working on projects ranging from these small and larger budgets? Um, I really want to get to Boundary Waters because I mean I'm just gonna jump right to it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because depending on who you talk to, a small budget could be $5 million
Right,
or,
right.
Yeah.
and
It's
then a big
tiny.
budget's like, 20 million plus and stuff. So
Yeah.
it is
Not
funny
getting
whenever
Brad
people,
Pitt for $5 million.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah. So it is funny when people are like, oh, small budgets, because that means very different things
Yeah.
to everyone.
yeah.
Um, I don't have insight. I worked as an assistant director on Boundary Waters,
Okay.
which was an independent film that shot up in Ely. And I,
Mhm.
I don't have insight into the budget for it, so I can't
Okay.
quite say. I do know it was at least over $1 million for that film.
Oh, okay.
But
Mhm.
I don't know the exact budget.
Okay.
But yeah, I worked as part of the AD team, and I think it was maybe the first film that ever shot up north in Ely. And the reason they did that was because of the tax incentives,
Hmm.
which, if you're going to be a producer, you have to understand tax incentives. And it's all about, maximizing your budget. And so, without getting too in depth about tax incentives, you can apply to every state has a tax incentive program, and you can apply with your project, and you will get a certain amount of your budget back from the state because they've put aside funding to help encourage job creation, and filming to happen in the area because it's good for, yeah, the local economy. So in Minnesota, we have a state tax incentive. We also have regional tax credits, for up north, and they're managed by two different offices. So the reason why the decision was made to make Boundary Waters up north is because you can take advantage of all of those tax incentives, the state as well as the regional credits that could be stacked on top of each other. And
AKA soft money, right?
so
Or is that more
sort
grant level
yeah,
rebates?
sort of. So I mean, soft money is usually money that you don't have to pay back. So
Okay,
it's
okay.
like, donations or grants, like you
Hmm.
mentioned. So that's all kind of soft money. Hard money is, when you hear the term hard money, it's like an investor has given you X amount of money and then they expect it to be returned to them, and then
Mhm.
they get a certain percentage of the profit if it goes into net profit. Um, but there are investors out there that will, uh, in a way, kind of like loan or invest in your project against tax credits. So if they look at your budget and they see, oh, you're going to be getting 25% back on your, just for sake of picking a number, $1 million budget,
Hmm.
Mhm.
then they will give you $250,000, knowing full well that you're going to get around that
At
much
least that
money
much
back
back,
when
right?
when the project completes.
Got it.
So there are investors out there who only invest against tax credits,
Hmm.
because it's a very safe investment, right?
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
most likely you're going to see that money back if you invest, that much money and you qualify for the incentive.
Hmm.
That investor
Mhm.
knows, okay, that money's coming back to me. Um, so yeah, I some people would consider Boundary Waters a small project. Some people would consider it a big project. I think for the area, it was probably one of the bigger projects up north. And yeah, I think it was one of the earlier films that shot up there. Now there's a lot of filming that happens up there. I heard there was another feature
Yeah.
that just shot up in Ely. But yeah, it does pose a challenge. And I don't know if it necessarily has to do with budget size, but it's just location wise. If you've ever been to Ely, it's up there.
Yep.
We ran into, a lot of resource sort of like infrastructure things while we were up there, where we were filming in um, May, which you can still have snow in Ely in May.
Yep.
Lakes can still be frozen over. So we ran into the issue of like our director wanted to have some like greenery, some plants to break up this wall to make it look, more, I don't know, colorful and visually appealing. So
Mhm.
our production designer was trying to find plants that it was just, and we were in prep on it. So this was in April, and he could not find, any sort of plants anywhere, like fake plants just didn't quite look right. So he had to drive to go try to find these plants. Uh, Poor guy. Same with our costume designer. We would have to have, it was a very large cast, Boundary Waters. We had
Yeah.
to have multiples of each person's costume, and there were
Mhm.
multiple days that had to be covered. So, like, one actor would have, 10 different looks, and then each of those 10 different looks had to have multiples of those. So, getting
Wow.
enough costumes was also challenging. So, our costume designer actually had to drive all the way from Ely down to the Mall of America just because there weren't stores that had enough multiples to like they might have like one of the
Yeah.
right size of like this t-shirt, but you need three of them, you need five of them. So she had, in order to like really be able to buy enough multiples, she had to go all the way down to the Mall of America. Um,
Wow.
so this is like stuff that you run into when you shoot in some of these like remote locations. I mean, the perks
Yeah.
of it is the community really rallies around you and they're awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they're so excited about the film. And so things that might typically be more difficult, like road closures for, stunts or something
Yeah.
like that, very easy. You just, our one of our location managers was from the area, so he would just call up City Hall and be like, "Hey, we're gonna like be on this road for the next like couple of hours. We're just gonna shut it down." And they'd be like, "Okay, great." So, um,
I love it.
Wow.
yeah, small town. So yeah, and the
Right.
community, they're all great. So like,
Yeah.
pluses and minuses all around.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was a really great project to be part of and kind of the first thing I ever worked on when I moved back to Minnesota. And to this day, the people that I worked with on that project are the people that I continually call back, or that if I have other
Mhm.
projects, I want to work with them again because they were all really awesome. Our crew was really great.
That's great. Yeah, I worked with Megan Mack on a film. She's
Yeah.
yeah, makeup artist. So,
She was our makeup artist and also the crew member that taught me how to use Chat GPT that I mentioned earlier. So she's
oh,
she's my mentor with Chat GPT. But yeah, she's great. I love Megan.
nice.
So fun. Oh. So, Laura, I'm curious. We've talked a little bit about both your work in producing and as an AD. Is there one that you like enjoy doing more than the other, or like want to do
Mm.
more than the other? Or is it really just kind of you love both of them and any opportunity you're like, I'll take it?
I do really like to do both. I often, so I actually, when I was living in the Bay, I tried to only focus on ADing. That's all I wanted to
Oh.
do was be an AD
Hmm.
when I
Oh,
moved to the Bay Area.
huh.
And different markets and regions have different ways that projects get made.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, the projects that I was working on, a lot of commercial stuff in the Bay,
Yeah.
they often don't have budget for an AD. So many times it's just
Oh.
the producer that ADs.
Mm, hmm.
Um,
Got
so
it.
yeah, I was told I met with this AD in the Bay, and she's like, "I'm just gonna level with you. There's no work for ADs here." I was like, "Okay,
Mm,
well that's super depressing."
yeah.
Um,
Ugh,
and yeah, so I was like, I guess I should continue producing and not really worry about
Hmm.
ADing. So
huh.
then, yeah, the funny thing is that Boundary Waters is the one that actually got me back into ADing.
Oh, fun.
And this is another instance where I sort of talked myself out of a job, but they initially approached me because they wanted me to be the second AD, and I was listening to the scope of the project
Mhm.
and hearing sort of the logistics around everything, and knowing it was my first project in Minnesota, I leveled with them. I was like, I don't know if I'm the right person for you. It was also union, it was DGA.
Mm.
You know, at the time I was not a DGA AD. So
Wow, a
I
DGA project too? I didn't
Yes, it
realize
was.
that.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was DGA. So, you know, I told them I don't think I am the person you should hire as a second AD. I said, I think you should hire my friend who works as a first. And
Oh.
and he also seconds, but I think that
Oh,
he's
come
better.
on,
He's
get that
also
DGA card. Let's go,
he,
right?
he was like, you know, he's also part of the union. But like,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Mhm.
when the unions are involved, there's a certain level of expectation. And,
Mm,
Yeah.
you know, for me,
true.
I never want to fall short of expectation. Like, it's
Mm,
my
hmm.
goal to always exceed expectations. So
Yeah.
Right.
I told them they should hire him. So they brought him on, and then he's like, "Oh, but you should bring Laura on as a second." So, so that's how I started ADing on that project was because he brought me on. And then yeah, I
Wow.
did have to join the DGA because of
Oh my
it.
God.
Yep.
So and then yeah, the funny thing here is that in Minnesota there aren't a lot of ADs, I guess. If you're an AD out there, please let me know because I've been told there aren't a lot of us here,
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
and it would be
You
good to
know
be able to
Carrie
be.
Bush, right? So-
I do know Carrie. Yes,
Okay.
she's one of the best ADs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get called a lot here in Minnesota for AD work and not as much
That's
producing
awesome.
work.
Mm,
Right.
So that's kind of funny. Like it, which I'm happy to do both. I like both.
Yeah.
I will say that like my gut and my instinct is always to have my producer brain on.
hmm
Hmm.
So
hmm
sometimes when I'm ADing, it can sometimes be hard to turn that off in that
It's
sense.
understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, but that can also be kind of a good thing. Line producers love me because I'll consider, oh, we should get people off the clock so we don't hit OT and that kind of stuff. Like, which
Yeah.
any good AD is going to think about that anyways. But yeah, like I tend to think
Yeah.
about those things because of being a producer and like,
Hmm.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
And I can see with
Absolutely.
Boundary Waters, I can tell the director is like, okay, that's why it's DGA. Okay. She's done
Yes,
like
Tessa
American Horror
Blake.
Story and all
Mm-hmm.
that. So I was
Yeah.
like, she's already
Wow.
probably union, so that's probably why too.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she wants to climb that too. So you know what I mean. So
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that's so for DGA projects, if anyone that's part of any role that's part of the DGA is DGA, then the whole project needs to be
yep,
DGA.
yep.
So
Got
you
it.
can't like have a DGA director and then a
Same with SAG
non-DGA
rules. Same.
yeah,
Yep.
AD
All.
Yeah.
team.
Yep.
So yeah, she's great. Tessa Blake, great director. I loved being able to work, for her and with her. And yeah, she does a lot of television.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, she's a lovely lady.
I was sad I missed it at Twin Cities Film Fest because I think it was sold out before I could even get a ticket. So it was just like,
Mm.
Yeah,
okay, I'll see it
probably.
someday, hopefully. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where they are distribution wise. Twin
probably wrapping up
Cities.
the festival run,
Yeah.
I'd assume. Yeah.
Yeah, they Twin Cities was the first festival that it showed at.
Oh, really? It
So
was
that's
first.
why it was
Whoa.
sold out.
Okay. Okay.
which is really cool. Like
Yeah.
Yes.
just special. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the producers are like, it's a Minnesota project, and like,
Right.
Yep.
they wanted everyone who worked on it is here in Minnesota, so they wanted,
Yeah.
everyone to be able to see it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
the kids that were from Duluth that were casting it were able to come down because it's a coming of age story, and so
Oh,
it's
fun.
really fun to have all of the cast reunite, and some of
Hmm.
our principals flew in from out of town. It was a great celebration to be able to see it on the big screen.
Right, I bet.
Oh, okay. I like to ask like favorite questions or
Okay.
certain things. So not on, what we sent you, but you had mentioned you've never done a period piece. Those are
Yes.
really usually high budget and crazy, which makes
Yeah.
sense. Um, is there, whether it's as an AD or a producer, is there a genre that you haven't had the opportunity to work on that you would just love to get your hands on and be part of?
Um, Actually, I should revise that. I did do a period piece. Although I didn't think about it as a period because I was thinking more like Victorian
Yeah,
era for
Right.
a period piece, but I did a Western, which is more genre based, but
Oh,
that was
cool.
shot here in the Twin Cities. I totally forgot about that. I'm so sorry, Lisa. My writer director, Lisa. It was great. It was a great film called Girls at the Painted Bird, and yeah,
Cool.
that was at the festivals too, part of a trilogy of westerns. Anyways,
Oh,
Oh,
very cool.
genre wise, I have produced action stuff,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't say anything like Michael Bay action level,
Yeah.
And I really love the action space. I dabbled in stunts for a little bit when I lived out in Los Angeles.
Cool.
Um, and that came out of, the whole stereotype thing of being Asian and
Hmm.
people, every audition I'd go to, they'd be like, "Do you know martial arts?" And I'd be like, "No." So finally bit the bullet and I started training at this gym where a lot of stunt performers trained.
mm,
And it was really awesome to start learning about it. And I was like, this is way cooler than being an actor. I want to be a stuntie. So worked as a stunt performer for a little bit and was able to assist these amazing stunt coordinators that work on a lot of projects out there, Pee Wee Pamonte and Julie Michaels. And they took me under their wing and taught me a lot of stuff about stunts, which, yeah, I've really always loved just action.
Yeah.
I also went to a panel with David Leitch and Kelly McCormick, who, they're part of the team behind John Wick and
Hmm.
Nobody and
wow.
Fall Guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
The
they're really
amazing.
big.
epic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really
Yeah.
huge. But it's amazing how small the like stunt community is, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
that stunt team that David was part of is called 8711, and they trained down, I want to say like in Venice or Marina del Rey or something like that. And
Mhm.
Nice.
I knew someone who trained with them, and they were like, "You should come." And I had been living in the valley, so I was like, "It's just so far away
Yeah,
to
it's the west
drive."
side.
So I ended up training in the valley, which was
Oh,
probably, better for me anyways. But it is a very small community.
Hmm.
And he's actually from Wisconsin, which I didn't know. But
Oh, very cool.
mm,
and they're all very nice. But yeah, I'm very excited because Nobody 2 is coming out,
yep.
and
Yeah.
I loved the first one. I thought it
Mhm.
was great. So
And
I would
have you
love to, yeah, produce something like that, like in that vein.
have I know it just came out. I don't know if they did the stunt choreography for this one, but have you seen Ballerina yet?
I have
Which is
not, but I have heard amazing things about it. I heard that
so
it's
good.
even better than some of the John Wicks, and I
Mm.
think that there's like female action scenes are so awesome. Um,
Yes.
they are so. I can't remember who it was, Ginger Rogers maybe, who said that she does everything Fred Astaire does, but backwards and in heels. Same thing
Yep.
with stunts. These
Yeah.
women who are doing all of these, action sequences are in less clothing than the men.
Hmm. Yep.
They're having to do it in high heels sometimes.
Yep.
Like these women are so badass, and I've always
Yes.
admired female stunt performers because of
Hmm.
just it's just amazing. They so I haven't seen it, but I think that there's a lot of really cool choreography that happens when
Yeah.
it's a female like fight scene, for instance.
Hmm.
And so hopefully I will see it soon.
Yeah. I think you'll love it. Because there is like everything you were just saying. I mean, it's brilliant the way they put it together. And
Yeah.
you've got the couple of very familiar faces from the John Wick films that pop in quite a bit,
Oh,
actually.
nice. Okay. Yeah.
I would recommend rewatching number three beforehand,
Okay. Okay.
just because they're happening at the same time.
Okay. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
But
okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
That makes sense.
but
Okay.
so good.
Yeah.
I desperately hope that they make another one because I'm all in.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. I'm excited. I'll have to go catch it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
especially with like action films, I'm a big proponent of seeing films in theaters. Like,
Yes.
let's
Yeah.
all go back to the theater. Let's
Hmm.
support our movie theaters, and with action stuff, it's
Yeah,
you
and
have
go
to
on
see it
the
in a
cheap
theater.
day, like Tuesday,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Exactly. All right. Um, let's see. Alan, did
Yeah,
you?
just one main question left.
Yep.
What do
Hmm.
you look forward to the most when joining a new project or uh in the development, whatever, I guess. One that you are producing or creatively or not so much so, or a ADing.
Yeah. Um, so one of the things I really like about producing and ADing as well is it's creative problem solving. So
Hmm.
like I said, I think all things are possible. It just comes down to choices. So I like to be part of this like mind meld and collaboration that happens in film, where we're all trying to work towards this solution. I mean, hopefully everyone has the same goal of getting the film made. Uh, and
I'm
so it
here for
is.
the money, said one guy.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, where'd
I
you
mean,
come from? I'm sorry.
and to go back to like Boundary Waters, one of the places that we shot was this mining pit that was extremely difficult to get to, like very steep, and you had to hike in. There were no trails or anything in there. It was, very, so all of a sudden the question was, how do we get our actors and our crew into this location that our director wants to shoot at safely? Because
Hmm.
safety is
Hmm.
always, first and foremost on any set. And it was a discussion amongst everyone, like how do we keep everyone safe? It's outside, obviously, so it was very hot, very buggy. Oh, the bugs
Ooh.
are very bad.
Yeah.
Where are actors going to change? How are we going to get
Yeah.
them from where they change to the way they have to go? Are they
Hmm.
able-bodied enough that they can hike in? And how do we safely get everyone down to where this it's like a lake that kind of formed because of the mining pit. And so what we ended up doing, which our key grip was a big part of it too, was they basically created our key grip and our stunt coordinator and yeah, like our UPM. It was a whole big team effort, right, to make this to pull this scene off, or this location off. And so they basically built like pathways that didn't disturb the natural landscape and nature, but it made it safe. Putting ropes that you could hold on to. They
Yeah.
put a ladder down like steep, really steep inclines so that you were climbing down a ladder instead of having to, hopefully not slip on this like very steep
Yeah.
incline. They created, pulley systems for the gear to be brought down safely
Mm,
so that you're not having to hold something while you're also trying to just balance yourself and get down there safe. So I think that's the most rewarding and like best part of filmmaking is when everyone
yeah,
comes together and they're all, throwing out ideas to execute this vision.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, that's why I love producing and ADing is because of the creative problem solving. Because yeah, I mean, people come up with some great ideas and it's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's where the bonding happens.
Right.
I-
Yes. You all feel like
It's
you've been in
part
the
of the
trenches together.
process. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, did you see what we just did? This is
Right,
amazing.
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I mean, and big shout out to, I can't remember what it was, but I think like the forestry school or something in Ely helped us out, and the fire
Oh, cool.
department. They knew about this
Yeah.
location, and so they were also extra hands to help us like build this pathway to make it safe. So, and they knew how to like do it in a way that like preserved the natural
Yeah.
integrity of the place too. So, yeah, it was a big team effort. Yeah,
I'm even more
it,
interested to see the film. And it's
yeah,
just
now you
like,
gotta see
I
it.
know.
Now
Yeah.
it's like,
so
Yes.
yeah,
hopefully it'll be on a streamer soon.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Laura, what's next for you? You've been working on this one film in development for a few years. Is there anything else kind of in the fire happening, hoping?
Yeah. Um, Part of being a producer is having many irons in the fire, all at different stages of,
Hmm.
Yep.
production, development, post-production, all that type of stuff. So,
Yeah.
yes, I am in development on the magical realism feature called Body Shop. We've been in development for a while on that, but
Okay.
still moving that forward.
Yeah.
I am up for an AD job that will potentially shoot in Florida in August. So hopefully
Mhm.
that comes into play.
Yeah.
I have also been collaborating with the Women of FOC, if you know FOC, the Funny Asian Women's
Oh,
Collective.
right. Yeah. I just got,
Um,
yeah, I
Ah.
was at the thing where you interviewed them, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They are hilarious ladies. They've got a project that is going to go this fall, and so I'm hoping to be part of that. We've got some chats happening in the next couple of weeks, and then yeah, there's that short film that I am in soft prep right now, like pre-pro, that will shoot in Chicago in September. That's kind of like a horror sci-fi type of thing, Blade
Mm.
Runner-esque type of thing,
Ooh.
which is really, really fun with a great writer director, JC Ferris out of Chicago.
Mm.
Um, and then, yeah, the one that I just finished was a proof of concept that was produced in partnership with Netflix and Kate Blanchett's company, Dirty Films, and the USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative that just had it showcase. Oh man, when was that? In April. And so hopefully, with luck, Netflix will pick it up to make the feature. And then if they do, hopefully I'll get to be a part of that process. So
Yeah.
yeah, lots of irons in the fire and yeah, always on the hunt for new projects and new scripts to produce and be part of or projects that are already going that I can help AD.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean we have such a great filmmaking community here in Minnesota, so I'd love to be,
Yeah.
a part of it and doing more things here in the state rather than, all
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I,
y-
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, the variety of like projects and creativity that like spans everything that you're part of and like all the irons in the fire that you were talking about. I mean, just so fun. Like it's just it gets exciting even just hearing about all of the different genres and areas and concepts and everything that you're getting to experience. So I love that that's your world. Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
No, I was just gonna soft pitch. I'm writing a feature, so
Oh, hey.
That's true.
but yes. Yeah, so like you said, I have a similar feel for that too, because like it's always something either writing or post-production, production as a filmmaker.
Right.
It's always like
Yeah.
the next thing, right? So what's the next one after that, and on it goes. So although I
Totally.
am technically on hiatus for so, but other than this, of course, but
Yeah.
Writing is hard. I have so much
oh
respect for writers. It's
yeah,
why I don't do it. Out of respect for writers, I don't write.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, writing is one of those I will never dabble in writing.
Hmm.
It is just such a discipline. I have a great admiration for writers, and the
Yeah.
worlds they build and the characters, and yeah.
Well,
So,
Yeah.
I like you were saying, I've grown because I have people around me that who are challenging me too as a filmmaker too, in a good way. So that are, and now I have kind of a world that's already been built from the short film trilogy to go into the feature with. So
oh wow,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you.
Anyways, just pitching that out there for anyone who needs to
There you go.
know.
Anyone listening with money? Alan needs it.
Right?
Yes. Give me all the money and then you'll be fine.
Please.
You'll still be fine.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
Laura, where can people connect with you if they want to work with you or follow your work even? What what works?
Yes. So hopefully you'll see me out and about at, festivals here in the Twin Cities and then different networking events. Plugging Minwift, they do a lovely Thursday
Yeah.
Thursday get together.
Coming up
And
soon.
yes, coming up soon, which I'm hoping to, if I'm not out of town, I'll be there. But also I have a website. It's Laura Freeze, spelled like fries, laurafreezefilms.com. And it has all my like social media accounts and stuff linked there as well. But like I said, I'm really bad at social media and technology in general. So if the best way is to email me through my website because like email I can handle. But if people like if you've ever sent me a message on like Instagram or Facebook, do not be offended if I haven't responded to it because a lot of times I just don't know that it's there.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Um, so yes, definitely the best way is through email because I am staring at my inbox all day, every day, which you can find, yeah, on my website and email me. But yes, always looking to collaborate with people and filmmakers and like tell stories. I mean,
Mm,
it's the most exciting thing.
I love it. All right. Final question. What do you want people to remember most about you?
When you sent this, I was like at my funeral as a eulogy, or like,
It's funny. Everyone has like a similar reaction to that. They're just like, "Do you mean like in general? Like when I'm dead? Like what?" And I'm like, "It's
Did you
whatever
see
you
Eulogy
like."
by Black Mirror? Did you see that
It could,
episode?
I didn't
Oh,
know.
okay, never mind. Paul
I
Giamatti one. Yeah,
Okay.
mm,
I love Paul Giamatti though, so
yeah,
yeah, and Black
um,
Mirror.
yeah.
nice.
But yeah, I mean, it could be after working with you. It could be after just after a Minwift event, after listening to this podcast. Like it could be
Oh,
literally
hey.
in any respect that feels right to you.
Um, yeah, I mean, I hope people who have worked with me walk away wanting to work with me again. I always try to exceed expectations and I throw my whole heart and soul into my job, whether that's producing or ADing. And so, yeah, I hope people who have worked with me really walk away thinking that, like, oh, yeah. Um, I think, too, like, there are certain um, producers who like to be on set and like work with crew. And that's the
Mm.
type of producer I am because I like people. So I hope that like the crew that I've worked with always feels like respected and valued on the sets that I have. That's always a goal of mine. I I once had a writer friend. It helps that she's a writer, but she once said that I'm someone that will always keep the trains running, even if I have to lay the track myself.
Mm,
And
Mm,
I always found that very nice, and like I was very humbled by that comment because
mhm,
that is true. Like I will go to the ends of the earth for my family, my friends, for my work, for projects. Like
mhm.
I really want to give everything my 110% at all times. So hopefully that's how people view working with me and they have a positive experience. Um, and yeah, I guess just like in general, like networking or like if they've had an interaction that like I'm a good person, I hope. I hope people find me
mm.
to be a good person who's nice and like follows through on the things that I say I will. So if you send me a script, like, I will read it. It's so hard to get feedback sometimes in this
Yeah,
industry,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of gatekeeping. And I wouldn't be where I am without all of the people that have mentored me and shared information with me. And so
mhm,
I never want to be like this closed off, like unapproachable person.
mhm.
So yeah, I hope that people find me pretty approachable and that like they know that if I say I'm going to read something, it might take me a while, but I will read it and
Right.
get back with feedback if they want feedback or, if they want to know how to break down a budget or something like that. Like
Yeah,
I'm happy to like we all do better when we all do better, right? So I
yeah,
think, you know,
Yeah.
it's great to bring people along. None of this gatekeeping business.
yes. I love that. I love that whole answer. And I can tell you, I mean, just from having met you now, that I absolutely find you wonderful and lovely and very
Thank you.
nice. And I'm excited to meet you in person at some point, hopefully at a Midwest Thirsty Thursday. So,
Yeah, right.
um, yeah. So having said that, thank you so, so much for taking the time, hanging out with us, letting us just pepper you with questions. I'm so sorry for getting your name wrong.
You're totally fine.
And,
You're totally fine. It's how it's
um,
spelled, so you can read very well, Rahana.
I, yeah, I can. Uh, but but seriously, thank you so much for your time. I do hope to get to meet you in person soon. And to all of our listeners and viewers, this has been Filmnovia. Well done.